Hi, my name is Colby Penn, and today I'll be presenting my slideshow about civil rights and talking about if I think they're still upheld by the government and the people of the United States in modern politics. So, first, I want to go over why I chose to cover civil rights, and the main reason is it's one of the most important parts of the government in society, and there are many people throughout American history that designated their lives to fighting for civil rights, and those are some of the most prominent figures in the history of our country, such as Malcolm X and Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and people like that. And I think that their sacrifices should be widely covered. And I think many people throughout American history have been unfairly judged because of something uncontrollable, or as I said in the slideshow, genetic, whether it be their skin color, their ethnicity, their gender, or anything else like religion or any other factor like that. I think civil rights have been a huge problem throughout the history of the United States, dating all the way back to the creation of the United States. And there has been a lot of progress made through fighting for civil rights, and I think that that's a very important part to not overlook. So I chose to look at civil rights because I wanted to see if they're still truly upheld in our country and if there's still room for improvement in our government and our society, and if we can do a better job of upholding civil rights. And I quoted the textbook here, just saying that civil rights are extremely fundamental in our government, and that the government guarantees to treat people equally, and that has not been the case throughout history. And so I want to look at how people have fought to better civil rights for their people group or their gender, and if it's still an impact in today's government. So I want to start off by looking at civil rights for African Americans and how people have protested and fought for change. Obviously, African Americans have not been treated equally in the United States throughout majority of its history, specifically starting with slavery and moving on to segregation and things like that that were widely accepted by the majority of the population. I think about the civil rights movement when I think about civil rights in America. The the movement in the 50s and 60s, mostly spearheaded by people like Martin Luther King, that everyone obviously knows. And I think they had a huge pushback against the racist state of America, and that they made huge steps towards getting equal rights for everybody, not just African Americans, as they inspired a lot of people to step out against the government. I think that it's somewhat disturbing that this movement was so recent in the grand scheme of things, that the American government failed so badly to uphold the Constitution and equal rights for everybody, specifically with the whole life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness statement in the Constitution. That just wasn't given to people of color up until recently in American history. And I think that the government still somewhat fails to uphold these rights, these inalienable rights. And because the government failed, people of color were discriminated against and had to pay the price for the government failing to uphold the key principles, or what were supposed to be the key principles of our government and our country. I think that the United States wasn't truly a free country until all people were given equal rights, specifically up until the Civil Rights Movement, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The fight for civil rights for African Americans is still going on today, obviously with recent protests in the past 5 to 10 years. Next, I want to look at some important moments in the civil rights movement for African Americans, and one that specifically comes to mind is the Brown versus Board of Education court trial. This hearing basically led to the banning of segregation of public schools in America, and it was a huge step forward for African Americans and their civil rights. It's not just African Americans that had to fight for civil rights, it's also women. Um, Women were widely discriminated against throughout early United States history, dating back all the way to slavery. They protested for the right to vote and eventually got it with the passing of the 19th Amendment, but it did not end discrimination against them in any other field. Men often saw women as inferior, and that's just another example of the government failing to uphold civil rights for people. Overall, I think this all begs the question, are Americans treated equally today? And this question is the main reason I chose to cover civil rights. And I think the answer is no. I don't think it's really the government's fault anymore. I think it's more on the people. And I think the citizens of the United States need to do a better job of upholding each other, making sure that people don't discriminate against each other, as the government has given equal rights to people. It's just people discriminate against each other now. And the main example I can think of is discrimination in workplace pay. Sorry, many women and minorities feel that they're underpaid for jobs that like men would get paid more to do just because they're women are seen as inferior. Overall, I think that civil rights will be continue to be an issue in the United States for years to come, but I think that it has come a long way, and I think that it begs the question, are we as people of the United States doing enough to ensure fairness and equality for all citizens? And I think the answer is no. I think there's a lot of work to be done, but